breaking news. Yo, this video is about the rise and fall of Big U, how he tried to, and him and the Rollin 60's tried to check in MonSter Cody. I remember reading this book when I was locked up in Virginia. They sent it in there and somebody was reading it to us. Every night we'd be behind the bars and somebody would read, whatever they might, sing, that's what you do in prison, so that's what's going on right now with Big U and the rest of them locked up. So you understand while we out here making videos, they in there doing time, trying to get from behind that. But let's start this intro. Make sure you subscribe to my daughter's YouTube channel at Juanita Mecca Audio. All right. All right, you know what it is. Unique Mecca Audio, man. Yo, this joint here is fire. I want you to sit back. I really need y'all to watch this and pay attention because they have a new prison that they're building that I'm going to do another video on that called, well, they already have it built, called 60's. That's where they talk about sending gang members and listen to the activities that they're accusing these men of so you understand where I'm coming from. Then you'll know. Right? If you think this is who they talking about. All right?
I'm walking up to church, and as I'm walking up to church, I swear to God, it's about 50 hooves walking down the street. And MonSter, they already right there. And all I could do was sit down on the little wall, and I'm hoping that they don't see me, that they don't recognize who I am.
The Rollin 60's and the 8 Trays have been mortal enemies. They've killed over 20 of my homies. And we've killed over, I'm sure, 27, 28, 9 of them.
You're going to notice that MonSter Cody, whatever number he say was killed, he always said his people killed 3, 4 more. You know what I mean? Like we might have lost 20, but they lost like 23, 24. He always keep, that's honorable. What he did is not honorable. What he's saying that he did, let's get that right. But I'm saying that he's, making it clear that he's standing firm with his gang, that they never lost and they winners. That's what I mean, honorable in that sense. Because, we got the rat bastards and flip-flop and all the trolls that'll come in here in a minute and try and twist words up to pull you away from the message that I'm giving you, which is don't get involved in the gangs. If you're in the gangs, walk away from it. If you're thinking about it, run away from it, Just get away. It's not worth it because at the end of the day, when they pull you away from your child that's a year old and you do 25 years and now that 1-year-old is 26 years, you tell me what role did you play in that child's life? So if you want to be taken away from your future, so everybody say, can we ride? Everybody got excuses for why they hustling. They call it mollifying in psychology. That's what I found out when they tapped in my head for 3,500 hours of psychological training, that I did a lot of mollifying. Mollifying is when you make justification and make a wrong right. Like I'm hustling because my mama needed it. I'm hustling because I got to put, Pampers on my baby, But then when you get locked up for 26 years, who's going to put the Pampers on your baby? That's the question. I had to learn that the hard way, so I'm trying to prevent you from having to learn it the hard way. And remember, this joint is being sponsored by Cashbox. All right? Be on the lookout. Cashbox is going to revolutionize the whole market of sending money. Let's keep it moving. All right?
get, let's dive in. Throwing it back to the 70s, MonSter Cody wasn't just a name that comes out of your mouth without a tremble. Even Big U knew this himself. That was how notorious this guy was back then. At an early age, this guy ran the streets like they were his playground. He did things boys his age couldn't, even though he didn't get away with most of them. However, just one decision turned his life around, taking it from bad to worse. Cody was put on with the 8 Trey gangster Crips. This was influenced mostly through his connection with a Trey gangster named Trey Ball. At first, he didn't even have a hood name, and since another set already had someone named Cody, his homies weren't trying to let that ride. But that changed later when he earned his own identity the hard way.
I joined the 8 Trey gangsters when I was 11 years old. For the first year, I was just a wannabe. And I found out early on that it's the most courageous acts of violence, the things that no one else do, that will get you a reputation.
On June 15th, 1975, Cody officially got initiated into the 8 Treys. That night, he and 4 other 8 Treys slid into Brim territory to handle some business. According to Cody himself, that's the night he caught his first body. And from that point on, he was locked in, full-time in the life. By 1977, he picked up the name MonSter after he beat a man so badly, stomping him for 20 minutes and leaving him in a coma, that the cops said whoever did that had to be a monster. The name stuck, and that's what everyone called him from then on.
Stomped the man. He was like maybe 30 at that time. I was like 14, 13 or something like that. And I stomped the guy for a long time. I think like 15, 20 minutes. The police came, and they were telling everybody at the scene that whoever did this was a monster. And then that just rippled through the crowd. And when I came back around later that night, they were saying that the police were calling you a monster, man. They were calling you a monster, man. And I was like, well, that's what I am.
Between 1977 and
And that's crazy, right? That's why I sat there and I really let that play out, because when I'm speaking about me, when I was running the street back in my days, I'm gonna say my again, it's like we didn't care if we lived or die. And when I say that, I honestly mean that, I might be going on the jukes and I know I'm outnumbered, but I need to go on that jokes. You know what I mean? Not want to go on that jokes. I need to go on that jokes. Meaning, I need to feed my thirst. I need to, feed my body. I need to feed my pockets. So it's one of those like, I'm going to get this. You know what I mean? And you outnumbered and you don't think if you're going to make it out or not. Because the whole point in that mentality was just going in. And that's the same way I see it as far as these young dudes out here, with the gangs, where I seen a big, bus from the Lower East Side last week where they took down like 14, 30 or whatever, young kids, and the oldest one was 18. And I'm talking about for multiple shootings, and the oldest one was 18. So that means that that's our babies out there that we not teaching who we were so they could understand where they're trying to be by following in our, so-called footsteps. Because they feel like I'm going to go shoot at my ops and, all they thinking is just shooting at the ops. They're not thinking of the reaction to those actions. Like the reaction, like you hit an innocent bystander, a young baby, an old woman, anybody. That has nothing to do with it because bullets got no name. And that's what's so serious about that we have to get them out of that mindset. Because I'm telling you, I know because I was in that mindset. When somebody did something to me, I'm going and I'm hitting anything moving. And I don't care who I hit, And at the end of the day, that means life in jail, but that's not even a thought. The only thought on my mind is hitting my target. And that's what we got to try and pull these young kids away from, reacting instead of sitting back and comprehending what's going on and even how they got in that situation, but they got to know how to do that real fast in their mind in like real time. Because I know dudes that got 80 years for a split second. If you know what I mean. And they go to sleep every night praying they could take that back. But let me get back to MonSter Kody and Big U.
1979, MonSter Kody was in and out of juvenile hall for shootings and assaults. The longest stretch he did during that time was 9 months. When he got out, the streets had already started to shift. The 8 Trays, who used to be tight with the Rollin 60's Crips, fell out after a fistfight turned into gunplay. Things hit a point of no return when a new 8 Tray recruit took out Tyrone, the younger brother of Big Rick, a respected Rollin 60's member. That move shifted the whole dynamic in the streets. Hoods that were once cool had to pick sides, and old friendships turned into deadly beefs.
That infamous night, infamous day that happened, that was
See now, this where Big U saying that people telling his business on YouTube, but here goes the joint right here where he's telling about the infamous night. So, I mean, these are the things that come back to bite us, and this is where we have to claim our responsibility for our actions. Like I said in the video I did yesterday, I stood on a corner with $250,000 worth of jewels in the car under me in a hood where they paying $80 a month rent. And then for me to turn around and say somebody told on me when I told on me by being the billboard of a drug dealer. Anybody that tell on me after that, I'm the one that started it because I put myself out there. So they could have told them whatever they want, but as long as I don't let no one see what I'm doing, you know what I mean? That'll just be what they call the continued investigation. Now let's get back to the program.
March 3rd. That was March 3rd, 1979. Got killed.
Prior to that, Big Rick brother got killed in March 7th. We had a relationship with them. Then they got into a fight. A guy from 9-0 Gangster or whatever, he ended up shooting Big Rick brother, which is Tyrone.
MonSter was all in. The war with the 60's kicked off heavy, and he was already going at it with their blood rivals too, sets like the Brims and the Inglewood families.
The Rollin 60's and the 8 Trays have been mortal enemies. They've killed over 20 of my homies, and we've killed over, I'm sure, 27, 28, 9.
You see what I'm saying? Whenever they kill a number, he always kills something more than them. I mess with MonSter Kody because he let it be known, man, we won that. Yeah, we went to war. It was all that, but we won that because they got 20 of ours, we got 27 of theirs.
Them.
Around this time, Big U was also beginning to gain traction in LA underworld. He was getting in and out of trouble, and at the spark of the tension, he had just been rewarded by the Rollin 60's as one of the top members who carried out enforcements. To add to that, he had just moved back to LA from Chicago to join in the fight, and it was on, full blown. The 60's guys added to the tension when they left their territories for the 8 Trays to cause havoc. But that was nothing close to what MonSter Kody had in store. In the summer of 1980, MonSter's mom asked him to walk with her to the store. She liked shopping at this spot called the Buddha Market, which just so happened to be deep in Rollin 60's territory. Sure enough, while there, MonSter got into a shootout with a 60's member right outside the store. He caught a
with his mother present. This is how real it was back then in the hood, so you understand. And it's right now, right? Because we ride. Because I know someone that went on a train with their mother and they ops tried to jump them while they was with their mother, and their mother's trying to protect the baby, and the ops trying to get at the baby. This is 2025, so it do happen. I had to think about that, pause there, and let you know about that. Hold up.
A case for it, but ended up beating it. Then on July 8th, 1980, MonSter's girlfriend had just given birth to his first child. On his way to the hospital, he passed through 60's turf and spotted a dude known as Bank Robber, a 60's member. MonSter didn't hesitate. He shot him multiple times and drove off.
You see that? Yo, you see how real this is? Did you hear what they just said? They said MonSter on his way because his girl delivered a baby, and he seen the ops, and he said, hold up, the baby could wait. I got to get this dude. Yo, this is how real it is on the street, man. It was and it is. And that's why I say don't go out there. It ain't worth it. So don't say I'm trying to twist my words that I'm saying anything different. It ain't worth it. Man on the way to the hospital, see his ops, pull over, gun his ops down, and then go deliver the baby. You know? Let me tell you what, right? I had a psychopath tell me, right, one day. Right? I'm sitting down, I'm talking to him in the yard in the penitentiary. He's been down about 20 years. I've been down about 18. So He said, man, and I was down about 22. I had about 4 years in over him. So he was like, yo, Unique. I said, what's up? He said, man, I'm just sitting here thinking, when did I get so detached from reality that I could chop a dude's arm off, chop his leg off, chop his head off, wash up, go home, kiss my baby, feed her dinner, tell her a bedtime story, tuck her in, and then go back and clean up the remains, and didn't have a emotion in the world. And I'm looking at him like, oh, but I can't even let him know that I'm thinking like, yo, I got to get away from this dude. He sounds like a psychopath. You know, that's what's on my mind. But I'm sitting there and I said, nah, I don't know, son. I mean, you know, where did it all begin? You know? And he said, man, I'm going to tell you that one later. I don't know if y'all ready for that. Let me get back to MonSter Cody, man, because I ran into some characters, man. That's going to be a whole nother stream of content that I'm going to give you, the different name brands that I ran into and what their psyche was. Not the physical things, but the psyche.
By this point, MonSter said the war had already claimed lives. 8 Trays had lost about 5 people, and the Rollin 60's had lost around 8. Things had gotten way past just fights and shootouts. This was full-blown war.
I have 6 nephews from my sisters, and 4 of them are gone. They died before they even got 19. And then this is Antoine. He was actually murdered by a 60. My son was a 5-deuce Hoover, okay? A 60 killed my son. I went to 3 funerals in one day.
At one point,
welcome to the hood. And that's what we're saying right there, you know? And you'll look at it and you'll have empathy for the mother. She lost a child. But the child was in a war, you know? And that's a war that he chose to walk in. And that's why I'm trying to tell the youth, don't choose to walk into that war, because that's how your mama going to be looking, holding your picture up 20 years from now, talking about how you ran with such and such gang, you know, when you no longer here. So that's what you want to leave behind for your mama to do. Keep doing what you're doing. All right?
the 60's even kidnapped an 8 Tray member's sister and held her for 3 days, doing some truly graphic, messed up things to her. That act alone sparked a whole new level of retaliation. Some 8 Tray gangsters wanted revenge, and not just on anyone. They were gunning for high-profile 60's like Petey Whack, Kidder Rock, Mumbles, and even who were all known shooters from the 60's. They couldn't find them though. So instead, they caught another 60's member and went brutal, chopped him up and even kept his arms as trophies. That was a wild, dark time.
He brought somebody's arm back to a meeting, and that was Jay Blake's arm.
You mean to tell me that story is real?
Yes, that was Jay Blake's arm.
By the end of 1980, MonSter got set up by 3 women and ambushed by the 60's. He got shot multiple times but survived. Just 2 days after getting out the hospital, police picked him up for 6 different shootings. He went back to jail to fight the charges and again beat the cases. By 1981, bodies were still dropping left and right between the 8 Trays and the 60's. MonSter was still in the thick of it. Now, for Big U, everyone already knows that the bro was affiliated with the Rollin 60's. In fact, he is one of the solid standing members of that gang, running things back then, and even now. During the times when Cody was making the streets hot, he had crossed paths with Big U, and let's just say things could have gone sideways pretty quickly.
I'm walking up to church, and as I'm walking up to church, I swear to God, it's about 50 Hoovers walking down the street. And MonSter.
The story goes that he had just returned from serving and was at his mother's church when he sighted Cody from a distance. Cody was not just that guy who moved alone. He had an entourage with whom he rolled. On this particular occasion, Big U stated that the moment he sighted Cody with the amount of guys following him, he hoped they didn't see him, and that was for obvious reasons.
They already right there. And all I could do was sit down on a little wall, and I'm hoping that they don't see me. and they don't recognize who I am.
At that time, things were already at a boiling point between 8 Trays and the Rollin 60's. And of course, the bodies dropping were unreasonable, so Big U going into hiding was basically survival instinct. But here's the fun part. Cody had sighted Big U from a distance, and he basically walked up to him and kept things friendly.
MonSter walked by, he looked at me, I looked up at me, he said, "Big U?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and he said, "Cuz."
The whole situation passed, and of course, it is no lie that Cody could have decided to end things then and there. But instead, everything just hissed out. Later, MonSter ended up getting sent back to jail and caught a 4-year stretch for something he said he didn't even do. While locked up, he ran into Little Fee, a known 60's member. They clowned each other's hoods, traded insults, but it didn't go further than that at the time. While doing time at YTS, Youth Training School, MonSter met a counselor who introduced him to Islam. He started going to services, reading books, and digging into teachings from the Nation of Islam and other revolutionary minds. He was released in early 1984 with his mindset starting to shift, but the streets pulled him right back in. By August of '84, he bumped into Little Fee again, this time out in the open at a spot called the Golden Ox. Things popped off quick. A shootout broke out with several 60's, and Little Fee was leading the charge. Neither MonSter nor Little Fee got hit, and somehow both made it out of that situation alive. But freedom didn't last long. In September '84, MonSter went back to jail after a 60's member named Little Eddie ID'd him as one of the shooters who got him. MonSter got locked up in the infamous 2800 block. Turns out, Little Fee was also in there at the time for a separate shooting. But soon, his charges got even heavier. He was later tied to the shooting of football player Kermit Alexander's family and ended up getting life for that.
Los Angeles police say the mother, sister, and 2 nephews of former National Football League star Kermit Alexander were shot dead in their home today. Witnesses said the 2 gunmen walked in the family bungalow and opened fire.
While still inside, MonSter joined a prison-based Crip organization called the Consolidated Crip Organization, CCO. He was brought in by Tony Stacy from Hoover. Somewhere along the line, a member of the Black Guerrilla family, BGF, gave him the name Sanyika Shakur, which he eventually made official and legally changed to. In 1985, MonSter was sent to Chino State Prison to serve a 7-year bid. While he was in, the CCO started falling apart. Internal politics, Hoover leaving the CCO, and rising tension with another Crip group called the Blue Notes turned everything messy. The unity they once had started crumbling fast. Somewhere along the line, Big U caught a case. The story goes, his heavy involvement in the streets during that era, that wild 80's crack era where LA was like a war zone, led him to get locked up on some serious charges tied to gang and street activities. He was sentenced to 23 years, but had a bid for 13 years. By 1988, MonSter Cody was beginning to turn things around for himself. He started putting pen to paper, channeling his energy into writing. That same year, he got paroled and was finally out. Trying to walk a different path, he focused more on being a family man and started stepping away from the streets. For a while, he chilled on the gangbanging and crime. But in 1991, he got caught up again. This time for beating a man who was selling dope in his neighborhood without checking in. That landed him another sentence, 7 years behind bars. While doing that time, MonSter started connecting with the New African movement and really started digging into his identity and politics. He also made a huge mark with his writing. While still locked up, he dropped the autobiography of an LA gang member, a raw, powerful book that ended up becoming one of the most iconic urban memoirs ever written. He didn't stop there either. He wrote Thug Life and popped up in a few of those classic hood DVDs too. Around this time, Big U had been released and had decided to turn his life around. For Disguise though, he made his mark in the music industry, not just as a figure behind the scenes, but as a key player in shaping careers, Nipsey Hussle being one of them. Big U's story was deep. Going from the streets to becoming a respected philanthropist says a lot about the kind of turnaround he made. He used his journey to reflect, grow, and shift his path. He put real effort into doing better, not just for himself, but for his entire community. One of the biggest things he's known for was his work with Developing Options, a nonprofit that's all about giving underprivileged youth real opportunities. On top of that, he's heavily involved with the Crenshaw Cougars football program, a youth team in LA that focuses on discipline, teamwork, and leadership. Big U's influence didn't just stop at the streets or the music scene. From music to mentoring to football fields, Eugene Big U Henley was a living example of what redemption can look like. For MonSter Kody, when he got out, he still had a few more run-ins with the law. In 2007, he landed back in jail again after making LA's most wanted list, did a year bid, then got paroled once more. Even with all the charges he faced, MonSter somehow always found a way back out. By early 2009, he started popping up in interviews, speaking openly about his past, where his head was at now, and what he was trying to do with his life. A lot of people started paying attention again, not just because of the drama, but because of how real he was with his story. Sadly, MonSter Kody, aka Sanyika Shakur, passed away on June 6, 2021. His death hit the streets hard.
Pour out some liquor for the who ain't here. I miss all my homies, and every day I hold back tears.
He was respected by a lot of people, and even some of his old rivals showed up at his funeral to pay their respects. For all the chaos he brought, he also left behind a legacy that still echoes through the culture. Now, if you were to ask Big U who MonSter Kody really is, he'd probably keep it real and tell you just how notorious the guy was back in the day. They were age mates, both out there in the thick of things, but even Big U knew there were certain lines you just didn't cross with Kody, and he is probably lucky to be alive. Except his being alive only made things worse. Remember I mentioned that whatever Big U was about was all under a disguise? Well, here it is, despite everything good that's tied to his name. Especially the work he did helping to launch the career of the late Nipsey Hussle, Big U's story isn't without its dark corners. For a while now, there have been whispers, serious ones. Some folks believe he might have been connected to a few murders, including that of a rapper named Rayshawn Williams, and even controversially, Nipsey himself. And now, the feds have officially stepped in. They just dropped a major indictment, charging over a dozen members and associates of the Rollin 60's Crips, Big U included, with a long list of serious crimes. We're talking extortion, human trafficking, fraud, and murder. They're painting the picture of a mafia-style setup, and Big U was right in the middle of it. One of the most chilling parts is the case involving Rayshawn Williams.
They do say that part of the investigation involves the murder of another young rapper. They told me over the phone that the murder was over, are you ready for this? A diss.
Feds say Big U was behind his kidnapping and brutal execution, shot in the face and left out in the Las Vegas desert, all over some supposed disrespect. But this isn't just some random dude. Rayshawn was signed to Big U's own label, Unique Music. They were actively working on a project together, and it was Big U who arranged the whole Vegas setup. Airbnb, travel plans, studio sessions, the works. The idea was simple: record one track a day and build out something special. But once Rayshawn landed in Vegas on January 19th, things started going left. He missed a couple studio sessions but promised to double down the next day. That same night, he hit the booth and laid down a diss track, one the cops later found. They think it was aimed straight at Big U.
The dope, what I'm worried about. Doing all that talking, he's the one to clout, so I'ma pull up to his crib.
Word is that track made its way back to Big U. Between that and the missed sessions, tensions flared. Just a few days later, on January 23rd, Big U and a guy named Sylvester allegedly drove out to Vegas from LA. They got there around 2 a.m. on the 24th. Later that night, Big U pulls up to the Airbnb and confronts Rayshawn about skipping the studio. Rayshawn tells him he didn't have a ride. One of his boys was there too and overheard the convo. Then around 9 p.m., Big U shows up at the studio. Rayshawn rolls through at 11, records till about midnight. Big U dips at 12:37 a.m. in a gray sedan. And here's where things get murky. That gray sedan Big U and his guy drove out and pretty much vanished into thin air. Big U's phone went dark just before 1 a.m. with the last ping showing him right near the studio. Then at exactly 1:13 a.m., surveillance caught that same car pulling up to the Airbnb. Rayshawn walks out, suitcase in hand, tosses it in the trunk, hops in, and just like that, he was gone. Nobody saw him alive after that moment. Here'd been long-standing tension between Nipsey Hussle and Big U, with some believing it played a role in Nipsey's death. Back in 2011, things nearly exploded during an argument behind a Shell station in Hyde Park. Black Sam even fired a warning shot, LAPD showed up, and chaos broke out. That moment made it clear this wasn't just a minor beef. Add in label drama and money issues, and things got worse. Nipsey eventually dropped a diss track, ending any hope of peace. Rumors followed, stories of Big U keeping pressure on him even during DJ Khaled's visit.
But there was a lot of big politics getting into it with certain people. You know, Hustle had DJ Khaled in the hood.
So that's what it is, man. Sad time, sad time, sad time. But now, we're about to tap out. Been on here long enough. I'm going to show you a joint on C-Cop where they're going to try and send these brothers, Big U, Lil Durk, you know, Yellow BZ, anybody that get caught up with this gang stuff, they talking about sending to C-Cop prison. So I'm just letting y'all know, be on the lookout. So if that don't deter you from wanting to commit crime, I don't know what will, because this joint is worse than 80X. And I did 5 years in that joint, and that wasn't nothing nice on the mind. You know what I mean? Body was good because I was able to work out, you know, but my mind had to learn how to adjust with it. Remember to subscribe to my daughter's YouTube channel, Juanita Mecca Audio, Juainita. Now, my daughter, she's telling about what it's like from a female point of view, being locked up as a child while your father served 26 years in prison. So go check out what she's been through.
Cheers, cheers, toast the crime, toast the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime.
Fresh out the can of 26, he back on the strip, getting back in the mix. What he mentions a gift. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this. Take a little gully posse and put it in Harlem. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. An Instagram page and a YouTube, you could go and visit. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. To not pay attention would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never squilling to the cops, Mecca Audio. Get it live like 2 G's in the 90s. Drop top beamer so shiny. I let shorty go, she was whining. Treat her like my past, she behind me. Spin a couple bands on the Dapper Dan. You be back again, getting green like a Packers fan. No cap, it's a roaring uptown. Baby horn uptown, Dominican bust downs. Now we on the positive, we got a lot to give. Now he trying to stop the kids from being inoperative. So take heed, homie, lend a ear. He started in uptown, he gon' finish dead. But now it ain't about selling drugs, buying cars. It's about buying property to make the community yours, so we can give back to the.
Cheers, cheers, toast the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime.